Welcome everyone, and a very good morning to everyone who is present right now. I am Professor Kavita Singh. I am a professor at the Faculty of Management Studies, University of Delhi. Basically a psychologist by training, and my expertise is in the area of human behavior and human relationships. Today, for this session, I'm supposed to be taking a topic of emotional intelligence. Some of you, I'm sure, have heard about this term or this concept and are aware of what it actually entails. But majority of you, are in spite of hearing about it, may not have actually been able to understand as to what are the dynamics that lie behind the whole notion of emotional intelligence. So my objective today is to acquaint you or to introduce this basic concept to you. It's a huge area of research. It's a huge area of knowledge. Not very old. It's very nascent. It's just began in around the year 2000. When Daniel Goleman, was the first person who brought this concept into existence and said that there is an area which is much more dominant and important then your the whole idea of your IQ or your cognitive intelligence, which is what we believe till now makes us successful in life. Daniel, there were a lot of experiments happening. A lot of scientists were working, in different parts of the world, basically on the notion that 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 is there an element in human personality which can make him or her more effective in terms of understanding other people. So I'll just mention two major experiments and then try to converge these experiments in the area of emotional intelligence. There was it is not an experiment, actually it happened in reality. There was a cargo ship which was traveling in one part of the world, and it was taken over by the sea robbers, or they somehow managed to have a hold on this cargo ship, and they took all these people, the captain of the ship and rest of the crew members into their custody. And they had some demands from the government, so they took them away from the area. And the captain of the ship was confined to a particular place in the ship, and he was being tortured. I mean, and then messages were being sent to the government that if you do not fulfill our demands, we are going to kill this person. Or now the captain of the ship is confined. He is closed in a room and he's being tortured. And like a normal human being, initially he reacts back. When somebody abuses him, he abuses them back. When somebody shouts at him, he shouts at them back. And as a result, the dissonance kept on increasing. The people, the people who had taken the ship under the custody were not okay. After about 2-3 days, the captain, had a feeling that what if I try to behave normally with them? What if I try to befriend them and speak to them in a friendly manner? And then, the third or the fourth day, when a person comes with a, plate of food, uh, the captain starts talking to him and asking him some questions. And I'm not going to go into the details of this experience, but just to give you a gist of it, starts asking him questions about him, about his family, about his life. And then next 2 days pass on, and suddenly there is a change in the attitude of the people who have taken over the ship. Slowly they start becoming friendly to the captain. They are more positive because the captain has become positive. Captain is not reacting. Captain is not you know trying to fight back. Captain has just, in a way, I could say, the given up, and he's trying to be now friendly. So what happens is, after about a week, this captain is released. The ship is released because they have become such good friends with each other, that they no longer want to carry on with this procedure, this process. Now, as is very evident, the moment the ship is released, the captain comes out and there's media waiting for him and asking him questions as to what happened, why were they released, and all those things. And then he tells them the story that the moment I became friendly with them and my approach changed more towards being positive with them, entire scenario changed. People, because when he says, when I became positive, after a while they had no choice but to be positive with me. And then there were a group of psychologists also present there, and a lot of researchers went on into this, and then they came to a conclusion that there are some cluster of skills which can help you develop better relationships with each other. And then came and that actually led to the understanding of this concept of emotional intelligence. Uh, Parallelly, there was another research that was happening with a group of psychologists. So what they did, I mean, not parallelly, actually, it was 20 years back. What they did was they took a group of second grade students, about 4 to 5 years of 6 years of age, 20 of them. They brought them in a laboratory, and and there was a chair and a table for each one of the students, and there were a plate kept on the table with two marshmallows on it. Marshmallows are American sweets which American children are very fond of. There were two marshmallows on each plate. Each of this kid was asked to sit down, and the instruction was given by the psychologist that you can eat this sweet right now. If you want, you can eat it right now. But if you can wait for 15 minutes and not eat it, I'll come back and give you two more. That was an incentive that was being given to these children, that if they can hold on to themselves for 15 more minutes, they'll get two more. Now, the psychologists go out of this room. It's a one-way screen. Most of the psychological experiments, if they're conducted on human, they are done with a one-way screen, because you want to observe the behavior of people without their being aware of somebody watching them. So it was a one-way screen. The researchers sat on the other side of the screen, and they were observing children. Now, out of these 20, say, for example, 3, 4, just immediately, the moment the psychologist went out, they just hogged on to these marshmallows and finished it. Rest 6, 7 of them waited for about 1, 2, 3, testing their level of patience, 4, 5 minutes, and then they also finished their marshmallows. There were few, about 8 or 10 of them, who waited. And how would they wait? If you keep on looking at the marshmallows, you will end up eating. So what they did was they got up from their chair and they started playing around, not looking at the marshmallow. And some of them kept their head down, on the desk, and pretended to sleep as though they are. So if I don't see it, I don't want it, kind of approach. And then 15 minutes are over. The psychologists come back. They give two more marshmallows to the ones who had not yet finished it. And then they wait for these children to grow up. Now, they were 6 years old. They wait for them to become around 20, 21 years of age. It's a longitudinal study. And then they want to find out what happened to each of this child, after growing up. To their surprise, what they found, the study research found, that the children who had immediately, taken their marshmallows grew up to be low on tolerance, low on patience, not so good on interpersonal sensitivity and relationships. And even in terms of their academic scores, the SAT, the Scholastic Aptitude Test, which American institutions, educational institutions conduct, it was found to be on the lower side. On the contrary, the children who waited, who could wait, who could, in technical terms, who could delay their gratification, for 15 minutes, grew up to be more sensitive, better in interpersonal relationships, more tolerance. They had more patience. They could analyze the situation and react accordingly. And even their scholastic SAT scores were higher. And so now this psychologist wanted to actually conclude as to what is it that is differentiating these two sets of samples. And they came to a conclusion: there are some tiny cluster of skills which differentiate people into two categories. The children who could not delay their gratification and finish their marshmallows in 1 or 2 minutes of time were labeled as being low on emotional intelligence, and the people who the children who could delay their gratification and wait for 15 minutes to for the incentive that was coming across, they were found to be labeled as being high on emotional intelligence. And similarly, the earlier research of the captain surviving the attack on the ship, it was found that he could survive the adverse situation because he had those tiny clusters of skills which could be categorized as being the skills of an highly emotionally intelligent person. So that is the relevance of EI. In short, emotional intelligence is called EI in our lives. Emotional intelligence is something which is makes us those of us who have it on the higher side, makes us a bit different from the rest of the people who are relatively lower on these skills. So my objective today is to help us at least understand, have a peek into what exactly is emotional intelligence and how does it actually help us. So I'm going to share the screen with you with the PPT now, with the PowerPoint, so that understanding is more you know is more technical. Yeah. So I generally start the sessions with the quote. So let's look at some of these quotes. One of the quotes says, contrary to the popular belief, technical skills are not the primary reason why new hires fail. Instead, poor interpersonal skills dominate the list. Murphy said it in 2006. So most of us, the young children, young adults who pass out of their colleges or postgraduate courses are aspiring to get a job. And at that point of time, what the organizations ask for is their mark sheet. They say this is the mark sheet, and on the basis of their performance in school, college, that's one of the criteria for screening out the candidates who are either high or low on the academic performance. Wonderful, that helps us to differentiate between supposedly the better performers and the low performers based on their academic credentials. But Murphy says, yes, academic credentials may be important to get a job. That's because the company does not know this person as as an employee before the employee joins the company. They can only guess this person's competencies on the basis of academic credentials. But when this person becomes a part of the system, it is found, and the researchers have proved, that many of them fail. And they do not fail. He may have been the topper of the batch, or one of the 95 percentile or 90 percentile student in the class. He does not fail because he does not have enough technical competence, but why he fails is because he or she is low on the interpersonal skills. That is what Murphy said in 2006. That means there is something more important than your academic grades or academic credentials, or technically called as cognitive intelligence. Cognitive intelligence is something which is defined in terms of 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. So how good you are as a student is cognitive skill, cognitive intelligence, IQ, which many of us very commonly call it as, uska IQ, his IQ is lower, IQ is high. It is basically measuring in terms of his performance as a student in the classroom. But when you become an employee in an organization, after a while, initially it is important to get the job. But after a while, what really matters is how effectively you are able to relate and interact with people around you, with your colleagues, with your subordinates, with your bosses. If you are in a classroom, if you are in an academic institution, how good you are as a teacher. And not in terms of just the teaching competencies, your expertise on that particular subject area, but also in terms of how effectively you are able to relate to other people, relate with your student. A student will generally remember a teacher not because the teacher was good in teaching, that's one of the parameters, but student will generally remember a teacher because the teacher could relate with him or her in the classroom. That's how it works. And they will say, oh, he or she was a good teacher because he was approachable, because I could just go and meet him anytime I wanted to. I could discuss any issue that I had to discuss with him or her. So there, their cognitive intelligence is not so important, but your ability to relate with others is more important. And that is what is one of the hallmark of emotional intelligence. Goldman said in 2006, said the father of human emotional intelligence, said that the most effective leaders are all alike in one crucial way. They all have a high degree of EI. EI is a sine qua non of leadership. So leadership cannot happen without emotional intelligence. Leadership is a leader cannot succeed in any kind of setting, whether it is corporate, whether it is government, whether it is public sector, or whether it is academic institutions. A leader cannot succeed until unless he or she has a high emotional intelligence. Without EI, a person can have the best training in the world, an incisive, analytical mind, and endless supply of smart ideas, but he or she will not make a great leader. He will make a good manager. He will make a good academician, if I want to, put it very in a very subtle way. But he or she will not make a good leader. And a leader is one who encompasses all these skills. A leader has to be a good administrator. A leader has to be a good human being. A leader has to be need to have high cognitive intelligence to be able to succeed. But overall, above all these, all these parameters, a leader needs to be high on emotional intelligence as well. And we shall see slightly later how. Relevance. Why is emotional intelligence relevant? And it's only in last 20 years that this concept has gained importance. People have started talking about it. And there are a lot of books which have come in the area of EI. There is a book by Daniel Goleman, EQ, Why Does It Matter More Than IQ? And you can find this book on any good bookshop. This is one of the best sellers, wherein he has actually made us understand why emotional intelligence is so relevant today in this contemporary world. Maybe 100 years ago, it was not, it did not exist. So we have no way to prove whether it was relevant or not. But the only way we can conclude it by saying the level of awareness of people was not so high. 100 years ago, the educational input that was available to the majority of the population was not so high. So people didn't know what they want. They had learned to live in a kind of society where there are authority figures and their followers. So authority figure will give orders and followers will have to just obey or comply by those orders. But the society has changed now. And here today, your authority is not very often not defined by your age or your position in the organization. Authority has now more to do something with your expertise and your ability to interact and relate with people. And there comes the importance of EI in our life, because ultimately, even if I'm interacting with a student who is about 20 years of age, I cannot expect him to just obey my orders, because this student of mine, this child of mine is intelligent enough to question my rationality. And that's how the society has evolved. Today, I may assume to have the expertise in the area, but I'm also not very sure whether the person with whom I'm interacting does not have that expertise. Or maybe he or she is cognitively more intelligent than me. So how do I relate with him? I may not be able to fight with him, compete with him or her on the basis of my cognitive intelligence. So how do I interact or develop my relationship or interactions with him or her? EI can be of help to me. So let's see the relevance of this EI in our life. Today's workplace emphasizes teamwork, flexibility, and service. So, there's no individual performer today. Nobody alone can take the credit for the task that is done in the organization. People have to work in a team. And say, for example, this particular program is an effort of maybe 10 or 20 people who are working together, and nobody can single-handedly take the credit for this program. happening, because there is a coordinator, there are other team players, there are other members who are contributing to this work. Today's workplace also emphasizes flexibility. There is no one best way to manage things today. That era is gone, where the person will stand up and say, this is the way how it should be done. No, there are hundreds of ways, and we need to be flexible. If we are rigid, if we are stubborn, things are going to get difficult for us. Even in terms of understanding people, you have to be flexible. And also, it is the workplace focuses on service. you know uh, you cannot always enjoy a position of a receiver. You also have to be a giver, and that's what service is all about. And giver does not mean that you're donating something. Giver here also means in terms of some kind of investment that you make. I'm not talking about the financial investment, I'm talking about emotional investment, personal investment. So, and that's how you define the workplace. Each one of us is investing at whichever place of work that we are in. We are investing our time, we are investing our effort, we are investing our emotions, and we are providing service to the people. And that is what becomes the backbone of EI. So EI competencies are more valued than cognitive and technical expertise. As I was saying earlier, that's the relevance of EI today. We'll discuss later on also. EI IQ only is important for 20% of your success. As I told you, it can only help you get a job. I'm sure, many of you will agree with me that today you never even go back to your mark sheet or your degree. I mean, if you have worked for 5, 10, 15 years, whichever organizations you're working for, there is no need for us to need to find out where my mark sheet is or where my degree of master's or MPhil or PhD is, because it's irrelevant today. It's irrelevant today because once I'm into the job, I'm a performer. It is my scores no longer have any weightage and weightage on, even if somebody tells you, oh, I was a topper of the batch, so what? Today we are working at the same platform. I mean, if I'm a teacher in an organization, you're also a teacher there. You might have been the topper in your school or in your college, doesn't affect me. What affects me today is, can I talk to you? Do I feel comfortable interacting with you? Can I trust you? I mean, can I lay that kind of confidence in you that you are not going to betray me? Or can I have some amount of empathy from you, that whenever I am in crisis or I am in trouble, can I have that confidence that you'll be there for me as a support, as an emotional support? That is what is going to matter now. So you may be one of the toppers in whichever area of expertise that you are in, but if you are not able to provide that that support to people around you, emotional support to people around you, you will lose your existence. People will not even bother for you. They'll say, he's there. I mean, but my God, he's actually rude. He's actually mean. I mean, I really don't want to talk to him at all. But somebody who's been an average performer in terms of academic credentials, but is always available, is helpful, is empathetic, is of service, believes in teamwork, you will definitely be inclined to work with this person. So EI competencies are more valued than the technical expertise. EI is relevant because higher you progress in an organization, the more EI matters. Some of you who have a background in behavioral sciences or psychology know that the cats and Cahan's level of skills. The first level of skills are the technical skills, which help you get a job. And then there is, people skill. As you progress in the organization, people skills matter. A leader does not have to do a routine job in an organization. He doesn't have to go to the shop floor and work on a machine. He doesn't have to do that. What he has to do is to deal with people, deal with his employees, deal with his colleagues, deal with his subordinates, deal with his bosses or her bosses. And there, your technical expertise will again take a back seat. What will matter is, again, your EI competencies. So higher you go in the organizational hierarchy, the more is the requirement for the emotional competencies. And then EI skills account for almost 90% of what distinguishes the most outstanding leaders from the average one. So whenever in my MBA classroom, whenever I ask my students the best leaders that they can think of, the names that come, immediately to people's mind is Ratan Tata, Azim Premji, Kiran Majumdar Shaw. And my question is why? Why these people? Not because they are competent, no doubt about it. But they say the one of the major proposition made by these people is these are the leaders who relate with their employees. Employees look up to them. So if it's Ratan Tata as the um, the face of the Tata Group, whoever anybody may come in and go, but he remains the face of the Tata Group because of his capability to relate with even an employee at the lowest level in the organization. I know many such leaders in different organizations who would even get down to ask the PN or the gatekeeper in the organization as to how are they doing, how is their family, has your child got admitted, your wife was not well, is she okay now? Do you need any kind of support in terms of hospital or something else? Now the imagine the PN or the gatekeeper is nobody bothers to even look at them. When you walk into the office or your workplace, you don't even care who the gatekeeper is or who um, the PN is. But these leaders are the one who will stop by, ask them few questions, and then walk further. And that is what distinguishes them from an average leader who doesn't even bother about these people's existence in the organization. So, and these are EI skills. So it's not rocket science. It's not out of the world. It's nothing that you have to work hard to acquire, that you have to learn and mug pages and then give exam or something to acquire. It's normal, basic people competencies to deal with the people around you and just relate with them. And we'll know more about it. The concept of EI is all about bringing intelligence to our emotions, or in other words, managing one's emotional life with intelligence. Most of our learning of the past has been, since the day we were young, and whenever we cried because we were upset, people told us around that don't show your emotions, because if you show your emotions, then you are a weak person. People will you'll become vulnerable. People will start um, taking your advantage out of you, and therefore all of us have learned to suppress these emotions in a public place. Even if you want to cry because you're upset, you're not supposed to cry, because crying is a negative emotion, unhealthy emotion, and crying does not help in a professional world. Now, as a psychologist, what I believe is, it's a natural emotion. I mean, and something which is natural should not be suppressed. And that's the whole idea of nature. Nature cannot be suppressed. So emotions are very, very natural. Emotions are something which in any case is a part of you, because emotions are spontaneous. Emotions are not planned. I don't plan to cry, I don't plan to feel happy, they just happen. So if things are going right in my life, I'm excited, I'm happy, I'm looking forward to it. But if things are something tragic happens in my life, then I'm upset and I'm crying. So there's nothing wrong with it. The way I have right to feel happy, I have the right to feel sad as well. But then the society has told us all the time that don't show your emotions. And as a result of which, what has happened is many of us have become like robots today. We are machines. We don't act like human. And so what EI tells us that um, be emotional, because being emotional is a very natural process, but try to manage these emotions with intelligence, or bring more try to manage your emotional life with intelligence, or bring intelligence into your emotions. Now again, there is a dilemma here, because the opposite of reason is emotion. So how can I be rational while being emotional, or how can I be emotional when I am rational? That is the best part of EI. It says combine the two. combine reason with emotion, combine rationality with emotion. So be emotional with little bit of rationality into it. In your rationality, bring a little bit of emotions because you are dealing with people. If you were dealing with a machine, a laptop in front of you, you don't need to be emotional, isn't it? Because laptop is not going to react back to you with any kind of emotion. So you could be rational. You could just operate it by using buttons or whatever ways you handle it, and there's no emotion involved into it. But when you are dealing with another person, another human being, how can you be just rational? Because this person also has a lot of emotions into it. So can we combine emotions with reasons? That is what EI tells us. The idea is not to repress feeling, but rather to do what Aristotle considered the hard work of the will. In his book, Nicomachean Ethics, he says, anyone can become angry, that is easy. Now let's see how are we going to mix emotions with reasons. He says, anyone can become angry, that is easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not easy. Just now go back, next time when you get annoyed over somebody, annoyed because of something not happening right, and you are expressing your emotions, just have a check. Are you angry with the right person? Is the proportion of anger right? Is the time right? Is the purpose right? And is the way right? And you will find it is not. Because many times, say, for example, if you're annoyed with your boss, you don't express the anger on your boss. What you do is you go home, you find a weaker target, maybe your spouse, maybe your child, maybe anyone who's weaker than you, and you express your anger on him for no fault of his or hers. Because you could not do it there. So you happen to transfer your anger onto somebody else who is more vulnerable. So are you doing a right thing? No, you are spoiling your relationship with this person because this person doesn't understand why is he or she being shouted at. If we can help control that particular part of our personality where we do not displace our emotions on somebody else, that's emotional intelligence. And that's emotional intelligence with reason. But it's not easy. It's very easy to put it on paper and say that you should practice it, but reality, it's not easy. Are you emotionally intelligent, or do you still think that IQ matters more than EQ? Are you emotionally intelligent, or do you still think, not feel that IQ matters more than EQ? There is a vast, majority of people who still do not give any weightage to EQ. I mean, I myself know many of my own colleagues and friends say EQ is all farce. ये सब बातें हैं, these are all nonsense talks that people just want to use. अरे काम कराना है तो just focus on your harshness and your authority and make people work. Why should you try to become friendly and approachable to these people? They don't understand this language. I don't blame them because that's how they've been brought up, and that is what has made them the kind of person they are. So what exactly is EQ? Knowing what feels good, what feels bad, and how to get from bad to. All of us feel bad, have negative emotions from time to time. So whenever you have negative emotions, EQ says, I know I have negative emotion, but I have to get out of this. And I have to move out of this negativity and feel good about things around. Knowing your emotions and also knowing emotions of others. Knowledge is important. I should know what I'm feeling. If I'm upset, I should know that I'm upset. I can't be upset and I can and tell others that no, there's no problem. I'm okay. That's not right. If I'm upset, I should be able to communicate that disturbance to people. And also, in addition to that, I should be able to understand others' emotions as well. Very, very important. If somebody around me is expressing some kind of emotion, I should be a good reader of emotion if I have an high EQ. It refers to emotional management skills which provide competencies to balance emotions and reasons, which is something that I was talking earlier. Create a balance between emotions and reasons to maximize the long-term happiness. So let's understand what emotions are, because I'm talking of emotional intelligence, but what exactly are emotions? They're mental state that arise spontaneously rather than through conscious effort, and are often accompanied by physiological changes. So as I told you earlier, emotions are not planned, they just erupt. So if something good happens in my life, I get excited, I feel happy about it. If something not so good happens in my life, I get disturbed. And there are some physiological hormonal changes whenever you are in an emotional state. We are not going to discuss that part here, because that's not the scope of discussion here. Some other time. Some common emotions, we have anger, or the synonyms of anger could be fury, outrage, resentment, annoyance, hostility. Love is another emotion: acceptance, friendliness, trust, kindness, infatuation. Shame is another emotion: guilt, remorse, humiliation, regret. Fear is anxiety, nervousness, apprehension, terror. Enjoyment, happiness, joy, relief, contentment, pleasure. Sadness, grief, sorrow, cheerlessness, gloom. Surprise, shock, astonishment, amazement. One. These are 7 basic emotions. There are many more. The list is exhaustive, and they are all extension of these basic 7 emotions. So you can, if you experience any other emotions, you can find out where do I put these extended emotions in this list of 7 emotions. These are the emotions that and they're very, very natural and normal emotions. And if you look, there are more negative emotions than positive. Anger, shame, fear, and sadness are on the negative end of the continuum. Love, enjoyment, and surprise are on the positive end of the continuum. But the opposite of surprise could be shock, which is a negative kind of emotion. These are the emotions that we experience in our day-to-day life. Are we giving EQ education in colleges and universities? Unfortunately, no. We are teaching history, Hindi, English, geography, physics, commerce, psychology, botany, computers, medicine, engineering, management. The focus is entirely on the systems which focus on IQ, not on EQ. We are not taught how to handle frustration, anxiety, stress, failure, depression, burnout, inferiority complexes, and ego problems. These are very, very personal inside the person, because my frustration, my cause for frustration, history will have a definite answer. When did India gain its independence? There's a fixed answer for that. If you answer it, you get a full mark for that. Similarly, in English, there are definite chapters and definite question answers. Computers, there are definite answers. But when I ask about frustration, is there a definite answer? Is there a definite cause? No. I may be frustrated by one thing, you may get frustrated by something others. Is there a definite solution to handle frustration? No. Again, because there is no recipe, 1, 2, 3, 4, follow these steps and you are going to be out of frustration. No, each one of us will have a different way of handling all these anxiety, stress, failures, depression, and burnout in our lives. So we are never taught this. Nobody, I don't think any one of you have ever attended a class in your school or college which was helping you to teach this. If you have attended such a session, I would congratulate that particular institution or that particular school. We are not told how to manage emotions. That is, how to interact, how to coordinate, how to adjust, how to communicate. We are supposed to learn it on our own. The parents will tell us, our family will tell us, our peers will tell us, our role model. We are supposed to learn. There are no classes for it. There are no formal sessions for this. We are supposed to learn it on our own. And by trial and error, we do one thing, we fail, we relearn, do something else, we succeed. That is how we are learning to manage. Each one of us has his own set of strategies to handle all these issues and concerns of life. There are some rule books or motivational text information available to us, but that's a very, very generic, very, very general. I mean, there's no specific given to any one of us to be able to handle all these problems and issues in our life. At the later stage in our lives, we are told to master emotional competencies. So you have a session like this where a person comes and tells you, hey, listen, there's an area of emotional intelligence which will help you manage your problems, your personal problems in life. I do not know how much it helps. If I was trained to handle these negative aspects of life from a very young age, I'm sure I would have done a good job. But if I'm taught today to handle these frustrations and anxieties in life, my learning is going to be slightly slower. And then, I have a lot of biases now. I have a lot of stereotypes and prejudices to confront any situation today. A lot of baggage also on me, a lot of information that is available to me from so many years of my life. So we are told to master them now. I don't know to what extent we'll be able to master these competencies to be successful in life. So as I told you earlier, IQ is caters to only 20% of our success, and EQ, rest of the success depends upon EQ. 80% of success depends upon EQ. That brings me to next question: what is success? So is it your IQ, exam passed, competition cleared, percentage of marks in schools, colleges, academic qualification, a fat salary, top position, being rich and wealthy? So if somebody has a BMW or a Audi standing in, you see he or she is very successful, has a big bungalow, 3-floor bungalow somewhere in the posh locality in your town. Wow, he or she is very successful. Is this success? I do not know if you were able to answer this question for me. How would you define success? Or success could be defined, it's a relative term. Living a healthy and a happy life may be an indicator of success at the end of the day. If you have a 3-floor bungalow or an Audi standing, but you are not healthy, you're suffering from some kind of ailment, would you still call yourself successful? Reaching a top position in career may be an indicator of success for others. For some, having a satisfying job or a personal life may be an indicator of success. Only the tangible achievements may not be the indicators of success. Many times, non-tangible performance or achievement may be termed as successful. So if my parents today take pride in me by saying that, one of the best, wonderful daughters that we have, that could be success for me. If my child today stands up and says that one of the best parents that I have, my parent is, I admire my parent, that's success for me. So you'll have to define your own, you'll have to have your own definition of success as to, and then if it is tangible, then you can rely on IQ. IQ will help you do that. But if it is intangible definition of success, then you have to find out something else that will define success for you. When we apply a principle of EI in our daily interactions, people feel more valued. They develop a heightened sense of empowerment and confidence. Try doing now. I mean, if you can, instead of trying to find faults in people from now onwards, try to find the positive things in people. Each one of us have our own streak of positives and negatives. So if you make people, if you apply these principles of EI in your life, you will find that people themselves, you tend to pass on a sense of self-confidence in the person. The other person feels more valued, and they develop confidence in their. It's nothing. It's, as I said, it's no rocket science. It's just telling somebody, oh, I know you are good. I know you're competent. I know you can handle this job. Showing that sense of confidence in the person is enough for the other person to build up the confidence. And also telling them that even if they fail, it's fine. I mean, everybody fails. All of us have failed in our lives at some point of time. Even today, we fail in some endeavors that we take up. That a failure does not disregard a person, that he or she will never be able to do anything in life. A child learns to walk. You remember, and some of you may have children, and you just go back to their 1 year or 1 year, 2 months, and when they started to learn to walk or stand up. When they first stood up, they fell down. When they took a first step, they fell down. Did you just throw them out and say, you will never be able to walk in your life because you can't take one step? You didn't do that because it was your own child. So you made this child take the second step, take the third step, and felt very happy whenever the child did it. Some of you, in the recent time, made a video out of it and shared it with the friends and families just to say, hey, my son or daughter has started walking now. Can you do the same with your subordinates? Can you do the same with your students? Even if they commit an error, can you just say, ignore the error and say, it doesn't matter. I think it's a learning ground. You will learn better. You will do better. So when we are able to understand the role of emotion in decision making and engagement, there will be There will be a different way to look at the organizational processes and moving to a higher level of success. But then it requires effort. It doesn't come in a day. It requires a lot of effort. So it's more than simply being nice and ensuring people feel good. No, it's more than, it's not just that you give a pat on the back to the person and say, hey, don't worry, I'm here for you, I'll take care of you. No, it's much more than that. It's much more than that. It's that's the first step of trying to be good to people. It's about creating an environment that respects each other's emotions and allows for authentic dialogue about disagreements and issues of accountability. So can you have mutual respect for, irrespective of whichever level the person is, can we have that mutual respect for each other? Because let's believe each one of us have our own sets of problems. We are dealing with our own frustrations and anxieties. We are contributing to the organization in our own ways. So, don't disregard the sweeper who cleans your office every day, because if he becomes absent for 2 days, you've had it. You are not going to be able to survive in that environment. His role is important. His job is important. Give respect to that. Same way, give respect to the top person in the organization, because his role is important too. Give respect to your students, because if students are not there in the class, your chance of being a teacher is not there. I mean, you can't be a teacher in the absence of a student. You can't be an employer in the absence of an employee. So give respect to others. Have authentic dialogue, genuine dialogue. There could be disagreement. There could be difference of opinions. Very, very normal, very, very natural, because I have my own philosophies of life. You have your own philosophies of, we might disagree. Let's have a genuine disagreement, dialogue, rather than me trying to prove that I'm better than you and you trying to prove. It's become a table tennis game as to who is going to emerge as a winner out of this game. Let's not do this. The mistakes that most of us make is we believe that we have to choose between telling the truth and keeping a friend. That's a problem. So if I don't want to lose a friend, I'll keep on telling lies. Even if I don't like certain aspects of his or her behavior, I will never tell him or her, look, I don't like this part, because the fear is that if I say this, I'll lose him. So can we create a balance where we can keep the friend and tell the truth as well? That's where EI comes into play. People with high emotional intelligence find ways to respect emotions, be authentic, and hold others accountable. That's what we've said that earlier. So respect each other's emotions, respect each other first, and then each other's emotion. I don't say that, "Arey, isko to rone ki aadat hai. Arey, this person has a tendency to cry, or she's a cry baby." No, that's her emotion, and she's expressing it. Some of us have controlled our emotions. Some of us cannot have that much control on our emotions. So learn to respect each other's emotions, be authentic, be genuine. Don't put on a facade or a mask all the time to look good, and inside you are not good. People will read you immediately. Don't think people are stupid around you. They may not say anything, but they can see through you. I mean, all of us are experienced enough, and hold others accountable, and themselves as well. Can EQ be developed at any stage or age of a person or in professional life? That's a question that has been asked a number of times. Can we actually, because IQ is, parents start working on IQ at a very young age. Many of you, when your child started going to school, preschool, or, the first thing that you did when he learned to write A, you were making him practice to write A, B, C, D, alphabet, 1, 2, 3, 4, numbers, because you wanted your child to be always coming first in the class, and you were working hard on it. Did you work hard on developing his or her EQ? No, we did not. We ignored it because we didn't even know EQ is there. We didn't even bother to find out whether EQ is required or not. So, and then a time comes, and when there's a talk, and there's a professor telling you, hey, listen, your EQ is more important than your IQ. What do I do now? Can I develop this EQ in my personal or in my professional life? That's a question that we often ask ourselves. The positive part is, yes, we can. We can upgrade. You can upgrade your emotional skills at any stage of life. That's given. I mean, it's not something, IQ in fact stops developing after 25 or 30 years of age. There is no growth in IQ. It becomes stable after that. डिटोरिएट हो सकती है, बढ़ नहीं सकती उसके बाद. बट इन केस ऑफ EQ, you can develop EQ at any stage of your life, at any age of your life, and you can upgrade it. But again, what I'm doing is I'm like a horse. One person can take horse to water, which I'm trying to do right now, but 10 people cannot make it drink if it doesn't want to. The choice is yours. The choice is an individual's choice, whether you really want to upgrade your EQ skills or not. Some of us are very comfortable with low EQ. क्या फर्क पड़ता है? How does it matter? EQ लेके क्या करना है? I mean, I have been successful, at this till this stage of my life. I do not want anything else. I think I've learned enough, I've done enough, I've dealt with people enough. Perfectly fine. The choice is yours. Nobody can force you to do that. But if you're willing to enhance your skills or upgrade your skills, you can do that at any age in your life. In fact, a lot of researchers have proved that age and maturity are positively correlated with EQ. I mean, that's because experience teaches you that. So when you are young, you are very aggressive, you're very agile, you're very reactive. That's age. Teenager or even young adults, they're very aggressive, very reactive. They will not just take things as they are, they'll question. Rebellion is also very high. But as you grow older, and you see the situations, face consequences of your actions in life, of your aggression, of your reaction, of your immaturity, you learn. We learn. We evolve. Some of us were rebels when we were young. We've learned to subdue our rebellion. We've learned that कोई फायदा नहीं है rebel होने का. So as we increase in age and maturity, generally we become mature because the more experience we have in life, it makes us mature. It adds on to our maturity. They are positively correlated with EQ. So emotional quotient is positively correlated with age and maturity. So yes, that's a positive sign that I still have time to learn. Same is not true with IQ, which is more or less static. So we are not sure about intelligent quotient, cognitive intelligence, because it is supposed to be static. There are a lot of tests available, which can help you understand what is your level of EQ in life. Emotional intelligence is actually supposed to be a workshop course where we train people to become, to grasp those emotional skills so that they come out as a better, as a high emotional intelligence EQ person, and then are able to live their life relatively more comfortable as compared to a person who is low on EQ. So I would finish this talk with, by saying that please help yourself become a high EQ person, because at the end of the day, you will be remembered majorly on the basis of your behavior, and very less percentage of contribution would be made by your position or your academic credentials. So EQ is something which will actually make people close to you and help people relate with you more effectively. So I'll end my presentation here and wish all of you a good day ahead and a good week ahead too. Thank you so much.